But we didn't just want a running, driving car. We're after the perfect daily. And yet, far from perfect we are. It is technically running and driving, it just doesn't do either one of those things very well. The surging idle and being sluggish off the line are definitely cause for concern, but there were some concerning discoveries along the way, beginning with spark plugs. This is an action-packed video and we do tackle quite a bit. However, we will be leaps and bounds ahead of where we started by the end of it. But first, this is a transverse mounted V6 and the rear spark plugs are notoriously never easy to get to. So let's figure out how to get those out first.
I scooched back about a foot and I have way better access to all of these. I mean, it's pretty much just a straight shot from here. Look at that. All right, let's pull these plugs.
Oh, well, thanks GM. Another win for the 3800.
All 6 plugs are pulled. Here are our front 3, here are our back 3, and here are our nice new AC Delco copper plugs. Now, riddle me this. Why do some of these plugs look like they've been changed periodically while others look brand new? I don't know. I don't know if it was a laziness thing or if it was a convenience thing, like these ran fine, but at some point these two started misfiring. I don't know. But we're gonna be running copper plugs from AC Delco, but I will say this did turn into a much longer job than expected.
Oh, of course there's a but. There's always a but.
Because this little guy pulled off of this spark plug right here. So I'm gonna have to run to the auto parts store and see if I can buy just one spark plug wire.
Well, I guess we're replacing all of them now. Justification, 2 reasons. Number 1, I couldn't buy just one, I had to buy a whole set. And number 2, the more I got to looking at the one that broke, none of these have a brand on it. Like, they're not branded, and they really don't even have any markings in general. They just say 8mm high temp. So I went ahead and got some OE AC Delco ones, and hopefully I never have to do this again. Fingers crossed. Skipping the install part, because that's boring, we'll go ahead and add our seafoam to the oil to start clearing any gunk out of the crankcase that's been building up over the last 30 years, and head to the gas station for the first official fill up. While we're filling up, we'll go ahead and add the rest of our seafoam to the gas tank to start cleaning out any fuel lines, rails, and injectors. I know it's probably just placebo, but in the drive to and from the gas station, I feel like it's already running and idling better just from the plugs and wires alone.
But if we look at even just the throttle response, we're not having a surging idle issue. Check engine light's still on, ABS light and all that stuff is still on. But even just throttle response, it goes right back down. It doesn't surge anymore. Let's see if we're starting the smoke show yet out the back end. I mean, not really. Everything just looks really, really smooth. We don't have any crazy smoke coming out of the tailpipes. And again, like, I'm not smelling any smells or anything similar. I think she's just been sitting for a while and needed some love, that's for sure. We finally able to get out, kind of stretch the legs a little bit. And I think this is going to be a very, very nice car to have.
Again, this isn't a series about a running, driving car. It's called The Perfect Daily. And trust me, there is plenty of room for improvement.
I've been driving the Riviera for a few days now, and my eyes say it rides like a dream. I put a full tank of gas in it. I've driven it a little over 100 miles and I still haven't gone through a quarter of a tank. So that in itself is gonna pay for itself in gas savings. But I've been using these last couple days that I've been driving it around and putting some miles on it just to kind of figure out what other quirks and other things I need to address. And the most glaring one was after I filled it up with gas, it had a very, very strong fuel smell inside of the car.
I began the investigation with the old sniffer first and realized that the smell was definitely coming from the trunk.
So I start taking out all of the stuff from the trunk and all of the extra parts that it gave me.
Remember from the first video when I mentioned that the previous owner had replaced the fuel pump?
And amongst all of these parts is the cap for the fuel pump. So I go inside of the trunk, and sure enough, there's the fuel pump in all of its glory. I'm going to double check all the lines, make sure all the evap hoses and everything are hooked up. One of them has no hose on it, so I need to watch a video or go into the Haynes manual to figure out what fuel lines need to go where, and then I can cover it back up and I'll have no more gas smell. And just like that, it's in.
And while I was at it, I went ahead and did a little bit of fixing on some of the cracked interior pieces just to prevent them from cracking farther, as well as just general tidying up the inside of the car. Next item on the agenda is addressing the coolant temperature gauge that is currently not working. I don't currently have a way of reading the OBD1 computer, so I figured I'd start with the most obvious one, that being the coolant temperature sensor. The needle on the gauge will move, but it just won't go up from 0, so I figured that was a pretty smart place to start. Tackling this is also nice because it gives me an excuse to drain and refill the coolant just as another general maintenance item.
When GM updated to the 3800 Series 2, they put the coolant temperature sensor right here, right in front of the intake. But for the 3800 Series 1, which is what we have, it is way under here, underneath the throttle body. You can see it right there.
Even with the sensor being under the throttle body, getting it out is still easy enough. All it really takes is removing the intake air hose, disconnecting the sensor, and unthreading it.
Let's go ahead and pop this open. I do believe that is the same exact part, Loctite and everything.
Conspiracy time. I believe somebody in the past also realized that the temperature gauge wasn't working, and this sensor has been replaced before.
I'm gonna leave this off for now, and then I'm gonna go ahead and top off the radiator. We're gonna start the car and just hope to God that this doesn't start leaking. And so far, no leaks. Let's let it start building some pressure and we'll see if the gauge moves at all.
Yep, still doesn't work. Oh well, sounds like a future Jesse problem to me.
But first and foremost,
all right, Jesse, that's enough fun. Fast forward to the next day. Now that the seafoam's been in the crankcase for the last 150 miles, we'll go ahead and get her topped off. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. New wheels. Ever since my introduction to the Facebook group that is OEM wheels on other makes and models, I'm obsessed. I really couldn't stand how gaudy the wheels that came on it were, so I really only had two criteria when it came to finding new wheels: OEM, or at least OE style wheels, and chrome. Trust me, I tried finding actual Buick wheels, but there's only a couple different wheel styles I actually like. The early 2000s Park Avenue Ultras had two different styles that I think look pretty good, but the ones that came from the factory on the Rivieras, I'm just not a huge fan of. I mean, I guess these are fine, but you also have to consider the rarity of the Buick Riviera. The wheels themselves are pretty few and far between. So then I moved on to Pontiac with either the Bonneville or the Grand Prix, and the wheels were just a little too sporty styling for the look that I'm going for on the Riviera. So then I was open to the world of Cadillac. And did somebody say chrome? When you're talking about chrome, Cadillac is like the Cadillac of chrome. That's so stupid. And after hunting through Marketplace for a couple months, I finally found this set of wheels that I'm putting on the car now for $100. It came with all four wheels and tires, a full set of OEM lug nuts, which is huge, by the way. I've had my fair share of scares with bullshit aftermarket lug nuts. It's literally the only thing holding your tire to the car. Not really something you want to mess around with. It also came with all four center caps and zero pitting or flaking of the chrome. Bonus points because I sold the old Gotti rims for $100 on Marketplace, so I broke even. Funny side story, when I went to go pick up the rims from the guy's garage shop storage thingy, he saw the shirt I was wearing and started laughing and just said, "You're never gonna believe this." So he takes me around the corner to the actual shop area, and guys, you're never gonna believe it. Ah, come on. This is the only merch plug I've done this whole series. Give me a break. The several things that we've done in this video, especially the wheels really tying together the look, are starting to show why I care so much about this car and why it's so cool to me. I think we have made huge progress compared to where we started in just these 3 short videos. But it looks like there's gonna be a 4th.
Wings, I fly away far, far from the light, 'cause I like the dark.